Hello and welcome to the mill. I'm your host Dusty Crane, and today I'm going to show you how to solo Red Rising. Before I begin, I want to mention that I'll be using the collector's edition of Red Rising that is only available at the time of this recording from Stonemaier Games directly. If you have the standard edition, everything is exactly the same with the exception of some upgraded components. There are no gameplay differences. Let's go ahead and get into it. Let's go ahead and look at the components. We have 22 Toma cards, 4 priority cards, 1 double-sided Luna bonus card, 1 double-sided odd and even and scoring card, and 2 double-sided Toma player aid cards. Let's start with setup. Set out the board where everyone can reach it. Next, shuffle the 22 card Automa deck and form a face-down pile. Take the top 4 cards and set them aside for later. Next, shuffle the 4 priority cards labeled A through D and place one face up at the top of each location. Next, we need to add the Luna bonus card to the board. There are 2 pairs of matched sets, A and D and B and C. If the Luna location on the board has the A priority card, you'll turn your card so it shows the icon of whatever location has the D priority card. If the Luna location has D, then you'll turn the Luna bonus card to show whatever location is at A. The same is true of the B and C matching pair. If the Luna location has the B priority card, you'll turn the Luna bonus card to show whatever location has the C priority card, and vice versa. Next, remove the following character cards from the game: Auctioneer, EO, Loan Shark, Psychologist, and Rock. All but one of these cards can be added back with variants, but your first couple of playthroughs, go ahead and leave these out. Shuffle the deck of character cards, minus the 5 I already mentioned, and place it face down on the board. Place the Rising die close by. On each location, place 2 character cards from the deck face up. The cards should overlap in such a way that you can only see the VP or base value, name, and color of the covered cards. You're welcome to look at the cards, even the covered ones, at any time though. Now, look at the character VP values on the upper left-hand corner of the card. If there are more cards with an odd number value, you'll tuck the odd-even cards so that the odd title sticks out from beneath the game board. If there are more cards with an even number, you'll tuck the odd-even card so that the even word is showing. In the case of a tie, use the even side of the card. Oh, and 0 is an even number too, in case you had any questions. Draw 5 character cards from the deck to form your starting hand. The Automa only gains 2 character cards, and they'll keep those face down. Gain a random house tile. Though when playing against the Automa for the first few games, it's recommended you don't play against house series. Automa doesn't gain a house tile. You will get the reference card in the color of your house. Automa will get the Automa reference cards if you'd like. Both of you will get a fleet token and influence tokens. Put you and the Automa fleet token on the 0 space of the fleet track. Place the helium tokens in the designated spot on the board beneath the deck. This is the helium supply. Place the Sovereign token close by. You and Automa both have 10 influence tokens, but take 3 influence tokens from a house not in use and add them to the Institute influence area. This, thematically, indicates a neutral house vying for influence and serves to make endgame scoring more competitive. Finally, if you have House Apollo, yellow, you get the first player token. If not, randomly assign it to a player, and they'll remain the first player throughout the game. And that's the setup. Before we get into what a turn looks like, let's talk about the symbols you're going to see on the Automa cards. An Automa card is broken up into 3 sections, and you'll see letters and or symbols in a few different areas. The red area tells you where to deploy a character card, the green area tells you where to gain a character card from, and the white area denotes any extras that need to be processed. There's also an arrow on the card, but we'll get to that later. The symbol you're most likely to see is a letter. They go from A to D and correspond to the priority cards you set up at, well, setup. These will change from game to game, but the idea is simple. You're deploying or gaining from that letter. In the case of the card here, Automa is deploying a card to location D and gaining a card from location C. You might also see icons that correspond with the different locations across the board. This first one is Jupiter, the second Mars, the third Luna, and the fourth the Institute. As an additional visual reference, the iconography on the card matches the color and iconography on the board too. The final bit of iconography you'll need to know are found in the extras section on some cards. The extras section is this white area here. The star indicates Automa will gain a bonus, the X indicates we'll be banishing a card, and I'll get to what both of those look like in just a minute. With that out of the way, I think we're ready to look at running the Automa. On Automa's turn, draw 2 Automa cards and do the following for each card. First up is the deploy character piece of the card. That's the red bar here. You place the top card of the character deck, not the Automa hand, to the location chosen on the deploy section of the Automa card. In this case, we're deploying a card to the location with the A priority card. It's important to note that this does not trigger the deploy ability on that card, you're just placing the card. Second is the gain character piece of the card. That's the green bar. Automa will gain the top card of the location chosen in the green gain section of the Automa card. We're taken from the location with the C priority card here. If there isn't a card to gain, follow the tiebreaker arrow on the card here to the next available space with a character card to take. If you reach the end of the board, you just wrap around to continue your search. As a note, Automa is able to deploy to and gain from the same location, even though you cannot. Finally, we resolve any icons in the white extras area of the Automa card. If you see the X icon, like this here, you'll banish the top card from the character deck. Yes, the character deck. You do not take this card from Tull Automa's deck. If you see a star icon in the extra section of the Automa card like this, she'll gain the bonus from the location she gained a card from, unless she already has 10 of that particular bonus: helium, fleet track position, or influence. If she's maxed out on that bonus, follow the tiebreaker arrow to the next available bonus she can grab. This doesn't change where she deployed her card to, though. If that bonus location happens to be Luna, she'll gain the Sovereign token and the Luna bonus, and I'll get to that in just a moment. You'll do this for deploy gain extras actions for both of the drawn Automa cards, even if the first card shown would trigger the end of the game, and I'll get to that later too. Finally, if you go to take a turn for the Automa and there are no Automa cards in the Automa deck, form a new one by shuffling all of the Automa deck cards, including the 4 you set aside at deck construction. When you've completed shuffling, remove the top 4 cards from the deck again and set them aside for the next time you'd shuffle. This seems like a good time to talk about the Luna bonus card we placed during setup. When Tull Automa gains the Luna bonus, even if she doesn't get the Sovereign token, she'll also gain the bonus of the location listed on the Luna bonus card. And this one would grant the Sovereign token and the Mars bonus of helium tokens. Just as in multiplayer play, if either you or Tull Automa has 2 of these 3 conditions met, the end of the game is triggered. Level 7 or greater on the fleet track, 7 or more helium tokens, 7 or more influence at the Institute. If Tull Automa would trigger endgame on her first card played, she'll continue with the second card. And if she just happened to be the last player to take a turn, she'll still play both cards for her turn. You'll finish taking turns until each player has taken the same number of turns in the game. If you're playing as Apollo, you'll take the last turn. When you activate a deploy ability that lets you steal or banish a character card, use the bottom card of the Automa deck. Whenever the Automa gains a card or returns one after revealing it, those go on the top of the Automa deck. And finally, if you activate a deploy ability that would give Tull Automa something for free, she'll always take it. It probably shouldn't come as a surprise, but if you'd have to reveal something to Tull Automa, she doesn't care in the least. Tull Automa always starts with 70 points. There's no getting around that. Next, you'll add points for their location on the fleet track, helium tokens, and influence tokens at the Institute, just as you would for multiplayer. If you're unfamiliar, the fleet track position determines the points awarded, helium tokens are always worth 3 victory points each, and the influence tokens are worth 4 victory points each if you have the most influence tokens at the Institute. If you have the second most, those tokens are worth 2 victory points each, and if both Tull Automa and the neutral house had more than you, your tokens are worth 1 victory point each. Sort Tull Automa's hand into a pile of odd values and even values, remembering that 0 is an even number. If you had the odd-even card showing even, then the even-numbered cards are considered matching, while the odd-numbered cards are considered non-matching. Discard down to 20 cards starting with the non-matching cards before moving on to matching cards. If Automa doesn't have 20 cards, you won't discard anything. You'll just use the hand she has available to do scoring. Depending on what level you're playing at, the value of matching and non-matching cards will vary. The rules use level 2 as an example, so we'll do the same. In this case, each matching card is worth 6 victory points, and each non-matching card is worth 3 victory points. The final score is 70 victory points, plus the fleet track position, helium token value, influence token value, card totals, and if they happen to have the sovereign token, that's worth an additional 10 victory points. You'll score your hand as you would in the normal multiplayer game. You'll activate at endgame abilities, tally your character card core values and endgame bonus points, score points based on your position on the fleet track, score 3 victory points for each helium, 10 victory points if you have the sovereign token, points for your influence at the Institute, and take a 10 victory point penalty for each card over 7 in your hand. The player with the highest score wins. I mentioned at the beginning of the video that there are 5 cards that you remove from the game, and 4 of them can actually be put back into the game once you're comfortable running the Automa. So let's go ahead and talk about the cards that can be brought back into the game and how you deal with those cards when you encounter them. The Auctioneer. The deployability in the Auctioneer says to choose an opponent. That opponent chooses one helium, advance on the fleet track, or influence on the Institute, and then you'll gain the other options. Well, since Tull Automa can't choose for herself, what you'll do is you'll roll the rising die until you roll a bonus that the Automa can get. Then you'll get the other 2 bonuses. EO. Her deployability says each opponent must reveal a red. If they can't, they lose 1 helium. For the Automa, you're going to look at the 6 topmost cards of her hand, or all of them if she has fewer, check for a red, and then put the cards back down in the same order. If she has a red, she's fine. If she doesn't, she loses 1 helium. Of course, that's if she has a helium to offer. When you add the Psychologist back to the game, the issue with the card is not in the deployability, but in the end of game ability. This card says, if you have the fewest cards in hand, ties count, gain 1 random banished card. The way you'll handle this is, for this comparison, Automa has the number of cards in her hand divided by 3, rounded down. This number is calculated before reducing her hand to 20 cards, so make sure you figure that out before you reduce that down to 20. Finally, we have Rock. His deployability says look at an opponent's hand, name a card, then randomly select a card from their hand. If you select the named card, banish it, and banish Rock. Now, how you'll handle this is you'll name the card as the card indicates, but you'll look at the 6 topmost cards of Tull Automa's hand, or all of them if she has fewer, and when you're done, shuffle and return them to the top of her hand, unless, of course, you named that selected card, in which case banish it and banish Rock too. And that is all I have for you for Red Rising. I hope you found this helpful. As usual, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments, and I will be happy to answer them just as soon as I'm able. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I hope this was helpful. Take care of yourselves and each other. Bye.